Order now that Commissioner Burns has arrived.
Burns.
Hello.
Just on time. Welcome everybody to the community. Welcome everybody to the Community Redevelopment Agency's meeting. This, whatever we are, the 25th of March, right? If the clerk could call the roll.
Chair Carney,
Here.
Vice Chair Burns,
Here.
Deputy Vice Chair Markert,
Here.
Commissioner Casal,
Here.
and Commissioner Long.
Here. Great.
Excuse me, Mayor.
We have a quorum. If you have the agenda in front of you,
Excuse me, Mayor.
what am I doing?
It's the schedule.
Oh, it must have just come up.
Yeah.
Hold on. Oh, no, I gotta do this meeting. I apologize. I've been trying to get the Tri-Rail schedule for the last 2 hours because my wife's gonna be on that train and she's important to me that I make sure that we get everything done on time. So I'll look at it when I'm later. You have an agenda in front of you. If anyone has any comments, any additions, deletions, the executive director has a comment.
Yes, hi, Renee Jadising. I wanted to make a request to move 9C to the consent agenda. That's the item related to the banks.
Oh, yes.
Okay, perfect.
Without objection, everybody? Yes?
Do we
Okay.
need a motion or?
Yes, ma'am, if you could,
So
motion to
moved.
amend the agenda.
Any other-
Motion to amend the agenda to move the item
9C.
9C about the banking
consent.
to the consent agenda.
And I would also ask to move 9E. We all know what that is and we're all supporting that, so I would move 9E as well to consent.
Could you amend the motion?
I actually would like to hear. I actually would like to hear a little bit of that.
Okay.
If
Really?
anybody object, unless everybody doesn't want it, and then I'll.
We've discussed it
What is it?
and I read
I had a
it.
couple of questions that I wanted to specifically ask. That was all. I mean,
Okay.
it'll be a very short presentation, and then we can move to move it along. But I just had a couple of quick questions.
So we have a second and
We have a second. I seconded the motion to move 9C to consent.
With 9C, yes. So, all in favor? Oh, excuse me.
Vice Chair Burns,
We don't have that rule here.
yes.
Deputy Vice Chair Markert,
Yes.
Commissioner Casal,
Yes.
Commissioner Long,
Yes.
and Chair Carney.
Yes.
Mr. Chair, motion to approve the agenda as amended, please.
So moved.
Second.
Deputy Vice Chair Markert,
Yes.
Commissioner Casal,
Yes.
Commissioner Long,
Yes.
Chair Carney,
Yes.
and Vice Chair Burns.
Yes.
Great. Public comments. If there's any member of the public who wishes to speak on any agenda or non-agenda items, please come to the lectern here. Make sure you sign in and give your name and address for the record. And you will each have 3 minutes. Have you signed in? When you
I
came?
did.
Okay, perfect. Thank you.
I did. When I'm ready?
You're on.
Okay, good evening. My name is Cheryl Haywood. I reside at 1302 Lee Street in Delray. And I'm here this evening about the parcel of land that was sold from Lake Ida Church of Christ. So this, I guess this sale came to my attention via video, probably a workshop video that I got at the beginning of February. One of my neighbors sent it to me. So for context, when I go out of my front door, I can see Lake Ida Church of Christ on my left and the other church on the right. I've talked to some of my neighbors, some of them who are members of that church, and it does trouble me that the church did not talk to its congregation before they made this real estate transaction. I understand where we are now is that the property has been sold. It's in the possession of the CRA, and things are moving forward. So I came for myself to hear what the propositions are. But as you discuss options and how many units you want to put on that very small parcel of land, I want you to think about the ingress and egress that's already there. In the morning, I leave around 7:30 a.m. to go to work. I go out to Lake Ida, and it's already hard to make that left-hand turn because I need to go out to Congress because we've got people dropping off their kids to school at Spady, and then people zipping across Lake Ida from Delray Lakes. So I'm concerned about whether or not that entrance from Roosevelt will be closed off. And if that's the case, then I really think we need to talk about a light at that intersection. So those are really my main points. I'm really here to learn about the different options and give my input moving forward, but I thank you for listening.
Thank you very much. Do we know any update on that?
Sure, I can address that comment. So we actually have not closed yet. So that minor plat is on the City Commission's agenda on Thursday to be considered, and then we would close in April. So I think maybe there was some confusion about how many lots or units would be there. We haven't actually made that determination. Originally, when we were looking at purchasing, could have been 5 to 8 through a study that you'll see here for accessory dwelling units and alternative housing options. There were potentials of increasing that to have more, but we have that study on this agenda for us to discuss. So everything is up for discussion right now. Nothing has been decided. So, and we haven't closed. So we do not own that property at this point. Sure.
Thank you.
Montre Bennett, 323 Northwest 2nd Avenue. I have one comment, and it is about the store that you own across from the Edmund Baines building. Whew. I'm always running here. Y'all just don't understand. I think y'all should make that a commercial kitchen. The store aspect of that building that you own across from the Edmund Baines building. That's all I want to say. Thank you.
Thank you. Any other members of the public? By the way, great job last night, Laura.
thank you.
I would have said it in comments,
I'm a
but
little tired.
great job, the DD. I'm sure you are. You did a great job. Everyone loved it,
Thank
and
you.
the displays were wonderful. And we're talking about the Savor the Avenue last night for those of you who
Thank
didn't
you.
get a chance to see it.
Well, thank you. Thank you for being there and participating, and I appreciate the.
Need to get a less rickety lift, however, for your mayor.
That's, okay, well.
You weren't here for
I'll
that
talk
discussion.
to someone
but-
about that. But I mean, it's just the wind, but or
There was
angle.
a wind, and it was,
We'll fix the pavement.
I know,
next
I'm a
time.
wind. Go ahead.
Put a harness on them, Laura.
That's true.
Boy, we're going to keep the suggestions coming. We're planning for next year. So, but thank you for that. But I'm just here today because I wanted to relay, and I think Executive Director Jadising will bring that up later, but wanted to relay from the DDA at our last board meeting, provided support of the CRA with the state. So I think we put it in the record for you guys. So I just wanted to recognize that, put it on the public record for how we are supporting and here for whatever you need for the support of the CRA. So with that, I'm probably going to leave. So my feet need some rest, but
Thank you.
26,000 steps. But thank you for your support.
Yeah.
And thank you for the city staff and everybody who did a great job. So thank you.
Thank you for fixing the microphones.
It helped that I turned it on. Any other members of the public wishing to speak? Public comment is closed. We have the consent agenda. I need a motion to approve the consent agenda.
Motion to approve.
A second.
Commissioner
Do we have
Casal?
to do it as amended because we added that item?
Well, you had us approve, I don't know, just, yes, as
Okay.
amended.
Motion to approve consent agenda as amended.
Second.
Commissioner Casal?
Yes.
Commissioner Long?
Yes.
Chair Carney?
Yes,
Vice Chair Burns?
Yes.
And Deputy Vice Chair Markert?
Yes.
great. Moving right along to page 2. There is no old business, correct?
Correct.
Okay, so we're on 9A. And I know you've made this presentation several times, Ms. Gianotis, and I wanted just to ask a couple of questions to make sure that I understood what it was going to be. I'm not sure you're going to have to get to the whole presentation. I just wanted to be able to ask a couple of questions. So if you'll indulge me, notwithstanding that the state may preempt us and all of this other kind of stuff, in what we're trying to do, we are talking about accessory structures for homesteaded properties or any properties. That's really the only question I'm asking.
Well, the legislation that's going through is not going to allow us to limit it to homestead if it passes in its
Right.
current form.
I know that. I said, yeah.
Right. So this is still kind of being workshopped, and just by way of background for the rest of the board, sort of coming up with accessory dwelling units on a neighborhood by neighborhood basis, and deciding who wanted to include them and who didn't was the strategy that was laid out in the comprehensive plan. our partners agency, the CRA, are helping us do the first area, which is the set. And so we have been kind of showing it to some of the neighbors to get reaction. There are other housing typologies that were also studied by the consultant for us. The concern about the what's happening in Tallahassee right now is that it would no longer allow us to go neighborhood by neighborhood. It will be just everything that is zoned single family is allowed to have these. And I would emphasize to you that is why the areas that have alleys really need to keep the alleys, because based on our analysis, that's how these are going to work the best. And there's some other, I mean, look, they're still in session. We don't know what's going to come out of it. I think it's fair to say the input we got from the first public showing was that the neighborhood very much preferred that it be a homesteaded property that sort of builds in oversight, just because the owner is either in the accessory dwelling unit or the principal unit. I live in a neighborhood that has these. They're historic. They've been there forever, and it is not required that the property owner live in the front. And, you know, we haven't had a problem in where I live, but that every place is different. And so that's just one of those, I think, sort of building in that natural surveillance was something, and then you can back it out later if you don't feel like you need it, but it was meant to provide an affordable option.
Right.
And the accessory unit helps the property owner maintain and afford the main house, and that's part of the engine we were trying to get going. So
Yeah, I understood what the state was doing, but in this, our version, I think are we just talking about, we haven't adopted the state language. We're just talking about homesteaded properties being able to do the
We're not
accessory,
talking
or are we just saying
homestead.
anyone can do it?
Anyone in the set
well, this is the kind of feedback we were looking for today. So, and I was going to tell you that I would tell you that the area in the set, you know, wanted it to be homesteaded properties. And this was only
Can we do that? I mean,
Well,
we can sorry, Rob, excuse me, I'm sorry. Go ahead.
No worries. Is the concern that if non-homesteaded properties are allowed to build ADUs and ostensibly not live in them, that investors are going to utilize this and basically box out the folks who are trying to help build wealth?
Yes.
So we can, I assume we can do this, but there's a good chance they're going to be preempted if the bill passes in its current form. That's where we're at.
Right. But I think also we're doing this as a partner with the CRA, and there are other programs that sitting as that board, you know, under Ms. Jettison's leadership, you could put your foot on the scale a little bit. Programs to help construct them for local residents, things like that, you know, are options that you could do. So.
Could I ask a question? When we talked about this initially, right, it was to help people build wealth in the city and to be able to stay in the city and not be forced out of the city. Right. But we were talking about regulations that would require that the individuals living on the property would be a relative, and we had a lot of things we were talking about as restrictions.
Yeah.
I would be concerned, and I was the biggest proponent of this, as you recall, from the beginning, if these become Airbnb type places.
Okay, so maybe this is not a long presentation.
Okay.
Maybe we should go through it
I'm
quickly.
supporting the
Okay,
concept.
Because the
we're asking
Airbnb
questions.
came up as
I'm
well.
supporting
Okay,
the
thank
concept, but
you.
I want the legacy
Right.
people that live in the neighborhoods to create wealth so that they own their homes, so that
Right.
they live their house.
But I wouldn't
they can
mind
rent
seeing
this
it
stuff
throughout
out.
the
I agree
city.
with you about the Airbnb concern.
Yeah, that's...
I think we've already been preempted.
So there's two. I mean, there's different ways to look at this, right? Because I mean,
Okay,
you
make
interpret the
your
law the way that you think until you're proved wrong in court. So far I've got a track record. So
Why don't you make your presentation?
so all right. So just so we're sure, this is
I'm
what we're
ready
talking
to
about.
vote. I just okay.
So this has been an idea. As you know, we have guest cottages right now. You have recently heard a couple of waivers to guest cottages. Physically, they're very similar, right? It's an independent, smaller unit on the site. The city currently says that is for your family or your non-paying guests. You are not to be renting them independently. I will not go on Zillow in the city because then I will have to call Jerry Pryor. So, but the rule right now is those are for your non-paying guests, your family members. So there has been, listen, accessory dwelling units have a lot of benefits to them. The question is, there's a couple of different ways to look at it. Physically, how big should they be? Do they fit on the site? What are the setbacks? How much parking should they have to do? Which is also being preempted under the current draft of this bill. So what we asked the consultant to do was to look at attached and detached ADUs specifically in the set neighborhood, using those lot sizes, using that block structure and the existing site, the existing properties to see what works. Okay, ADUs are powerful. They provide an affordable unit, or at least they used to before Airbnb. That money helps pay for the maintenance of the property, all those other things. It expands your family options. People who can age in place. You have place for young adults who can't afford to buy in the system. All of that increase as well. There are cons we have to look at. One is if it's another unit, we're in Florida, and if you're not right downtown, you probably are going to at least have one car coming with a unit. And then to your point, the big question is, do we require it to be homesteaded? And then if you don't, is it going to attract more gentrification? If you do, is it going to attract more gentrification and inadvertently kind of work against what we're trying to do? If you build an accessory unit on your property, you're going to pay more property tax. Mm-hmm. The property appraiser knows that that's got value. And so when we did the Always Del Rey plan, the area in the set actually was interested in the Airbnb because they viewed that Airbnb option as being a way to build wealth. If everyone is already doing it, can we do it? So a couple of legislative issues. First of all, Florida statutes right now do define these as being affordable. And that is kind of an interesting, are we going to let you build them as long as you have a restricted covenant like we do other affordable housing? The second is we cannot add new rules that limit Airbnb, but I wonder if we're adding additional density under an accessory dwelling unit, can we regulate turnover at that point? I think that's worth looking into, possibly. I mean, it's worth a try. So the two things that we're worried about the most, or that we're contemplating, how important are they, is the parking impacts and the issue of homesteading. And right now, the draft, the last time I looked at the bill, it wasn't going to allow us to require any additional parking or to limit it to homesteaded. And it's going to come anyway. So if it's coming anyway, we better figure out how big it's going to be and, what are the setbacks and all those things. So we need to do it if it's quite honestly going to get basically foisted upon us in all of our areas. In this case, we were still under the idea that we could do it neighborhood by neighborhood, assessing how much parking was available in the area. Did you have alleys? Did you not have alleys? How were you doing this? So the consultant figured out what the most common lot size we had was. There's two different zonings. There's single family, but there's also some part of the Southwest that has multifamily. And so they were really charged with, this was not like apply our R1 code rules today. This is, here's our lot sizes. Here's what's mostly on the property. Sometimes there's an alley, sometimes they're not. What fits? They were just testing it for us. So I have, and I'm happy to share the document with any of you. And how big could they be? That doesn't mean that we are going to let them be the maximum size possible. But I would draw your attention to the smaller, to the bottom. I'm sorry, the bottom, not smaller. Where right now, to get almost like a carriage house situation, which you see in a lot of the older neighborhoods, where parking is on the bottom and the unit is on top, our code right now doesn't allow accessory buildings to be taller than the main ones. Okay, so I don't remember if I saw this slide already because I was kind of trying to go fast. This actually is my neighborhood, and this is a 1920s area in West Palm. My house is like behind this picture. I don't have an accessory unit. I would if I could, but I don't. But this is mostly one-story bungalows with carriage houses behind it. So that rule doesn't exist in the district that I'm in, that you can have the one-story building and the carriage house in the back. So the plus side of that is that now you've made a place for the cars. You have more parking spaces. The downside of that is that our community is very sensitive towards mass and height and those potential impacts. So, just something to think about, that if you don't allow it to be taller, then it does restrict kind of how much you're parking. The company that we asked to help us is called Opticos. They're quite well known. They're actually a California company, but they focus on what's called missing middle housing. So the stuff between the single-family houses and then kind of the downtown development scale and mass that we see. Everything from the duplexes, fourplexes, courtyards, things like that, accessory dwelling units. So once they were studying the lot sizes, we asked, like, what are the other things that might fit there? And this had been brought up actually quite a while ago by a previous commission. Commissioner Casal was on, I know for sure, on the dais at that point, which is the idea of having cottage courts, which isn't that foreign to us. We have one on Marine Way right now. It's quite famous. It's historically designated. But would something like this, which kind of allows for a little more density, but in a scale that's consistent with a single-family neighborhood, would that work? And so they were testing it as, well, if I put two 50-foot wide lots together, and would this fit in Delray Beach's neighborhood, the set neighborhood? And they found that it did. So we were showing this to the neighborhood as well. And then we were talking about the idea of sort of what happens organically sometimes in other areas where a grand house is sort of changed into, 4 units, 2 on the bottom, 2 upstairs. It still looks like a house. Is this something we want to see? This is around the corner from me. This type of unit exists, and as long as you can park it, it's great. If you can't park it, then they're parking all over the streets, so you've got to kind of check all that. So we asked them to look at a lot of things right now. The thing that we would look at, the priority for adoption, is the ADU regulations and how big and how much parking and what do we think they should be in terms of height. The lot specifically that was studied was this piece here by the church. And then the reaction we got from the neighborhood is this a little too intense. Like, maybe not quite so many units. The concept of, I think, the idea of a grand house that's actually composed of multiple units wasn't necessarily bad, but it was the number of units that you could put a lot of density in this type of pattern. So, so we're still working on it, and this is the kind of thing that we're just trying to study to figure out how to meet the housing demands in the neighborhood in a way that's compatible. They're also making changes to live local as we speak, so compatibility is not always easy to achieve. And then there had been other efforts brought in front of the previous commission to try to bring back single room occupancy, things like that, because people are desperate for other housing options, and so we're trying to figure out a palette that we could provide that meets those needs in smaller units or in a more co-housing type of situation without tipping into something that maybe has other consequences, not enough green space, gathering spaces, parking, things like that. So this is what we've been studying. If we, so again, focusing on the ADU, these are the questions that we were asking. They did think the owner should live on the property, so we'll see what their legislation comes out to say. And then we were asking about that secondary and subordinate rule. I don't know that there was consistent feedback on that. And then the short-term rentals, I think kind of a mixed reaction so far. So we would like for you to tell us what you think is happening. This is the House bill that's underway right now, House Bill 247. I didn't get the Senate bill before this, so that takes the parking out of it if this goes this way. So I would recommend at the very least that we get the regulations in place to limit at least the height, because our single family districts can build to 35 feet. So we've considered using that if you have an accessory dwelling unit, you have a 2-story house, no more than a 2-story residential. There's ways to say we're going to give you this, but let's take it down a little bit in intensity perhaps. So this is, I think that's the last slide. Yep. So
you're looking for direction from us as well?
Right. I think, and obviously we have a big unknown with this House bill moving through, but if it is going to be adopted in some form, so we are going to have to decide on size and height and other things. And I have I think we can look at the analysis that was done and manage to keep them small scaled in terms of height and size, but.
So presumably our timeline is such that we would be adopting this after session?
Right.
So we know kind of what we're dealing with
Well, because it used to say that we could adopt these things and not consider them as density as long as they're affordable. The ordinance is being proposed to say you shall do it. I don't know. I don't recall a time frame.
No.
Usually they give you a deadline, but
Right,
Yeah. Their
So-
switch to shall from May was
right.
you got to do it.
took away home rule.
You
So-
are doing this.
Can we go back to the slide that is requesting direction, please?
So,
Thank you.
and again, you know, the law isn't final until it's final. So the
Right.
homestead issue maybe that rule falls away. So if it does, then we have choices.
Can we just poll the board? Let's here you got question one. Do we think ADUs are a good idea for the
Yes.
Northwest Southwest neighborhood?
Yes.
Yes.
Yes?
Yes.
Okay, so we all agree on that. Should the owner live on the property?
Yes.
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 I think so too. Okay. Or at least be homesteaded. You know, whether sometimes owners are temporarily away, but at least be homesteaded. Is a two-story building behind a one-story building okay?
Depends on the size
I
of
think-
the one story.
If they have a parking garage, I think we should make a contingent on that. If there's, yeah, only if the ground floor is
Okay.
parking. Would be my idea there.
That's
Right,
a good
and
idea.
that eliminates that problem. Good thinking.
Sounds,
I don't know if it eliminates it though. Like, what if
Two
you're,
more cars, one more car.
I get it solves the parking problem. What if you're the neighbor that's having this two-story house overlook their property?
That's why I said I think it's dependent on the
I'm not sure I'd
front
like
house
that.
size.
Well, they
right.
could frankly, they could tear the house down and build a two-story house anyway with a
right.
15-foot or 25-foot three-story house. Excuse me, they could build a three-story house here. So with a minimum setback in the back. So
Yeah.
If we're only allowing two, you're not really that high.
yeah, I'm more worried about. I would want to limit them to
three.
2 stories in the back. I don't want to be able to build a 3.
Yeah.
I'm hypersensitive based on the issues that
Your
you
issue, yes, yeah.
No, that we've been tackling in another neighborhood where this is going on, and I'm empathetic to the neighbors who, all of a sudden have a house overshadowing their house. And if you haven't experienced it, you should take the tour that we took, and I'm empathetic to it.
This mansionization is there, but I mean, I'm just
yeah.
Those
Empathetic,
people aren't
but-
even coming to us for approval. It's permitted. I mean, that's the thing. It's not like we have any control over it. But this, we have to make.
Well,
a
I would be in
determination.
favor of limiting it to 2 stories with the garage with the garage on the.
I'm more, and I agree with you, but I'm more concerned about the parking issue.
Me too.
And if that solves that, or at least mitigates it, I think that's the bigger problem to tackle. Are we already preempted though from limiting short-term rentals?
Maybe.
I sort of thought.
I mean, yes and no. This is a new use, so
Yeah.
Right.
I think we're not creating a restriction. We have a new use, so I'm hoping we can regulate it. I
I
I
it's
always
a-
talk
worry
with the
about
city
it.
attorney.
I think that we're not going to
but-
be able to prevent that.
So
I
let's,
agree.
like, hypothetically, if we can limit short-term rentals, I would say if this bill doesn't go through or it changes, and we have the ability to ensure that the property is homesteaded, then we should allow short-term rentals if we can. But if we can't control that, then I don't think we should be supporting short-term rentals. If you don't have to be homesteaded to own the property, I think that encourages more investors to come in and buy these properties.
I agree.
We
Well,
agreed
also,
on
right, if you're
homesteaded
homesteaded.
anyway.
Yeah, well, it's the same, but if he says we're preempted, we can't have homesteading.
Right.
Oh, if
there was no-
draft right
they-
now.
Because the
Right,
reality
we
is, if
won't
you're
know until-
homesteaded and you're doing it yourself, you're looking at the person you're renting to and being much more careful,
Right, exactly.
theoretically, than you
Exactly.
would
If
be
you're
if you don't live on
homesteaded.
it.
So
Your neighbor
if you don't
in
have to
your
live there,
yard,
we
in your
shouldn't be
property.
encouraging
You want to know,
short-term
they want to know who
rentals,
their
in my
neighbor
opinion.
is, and I think that.
Yeah.
So I kind of agree with
Yeah.
Me
that
too.
sentiment.
So
Yeah.
if this bill goes through, we're not going to be able to even talk about parking,
Right.
right? Right.
Right, yeah.
But the garage aspect of it, I think,
Right.
solves
We're
some
not
of
really
that
making it a
problem.
parking requirement. We're making it a design requirement
Yeah.
if we're going to go to the 2
Exactly.
stories. And so I
stories
think
is
we get
fine.
And
without
I mean-
talking about parking.
we would be staff had studied this and looked at this, and I think the draft we were going to bring forward would have required 1 additional parking space. So if we can't, we can't. But
Right, but people are going to be able to park on the streets in some neighborhoods. I mean, this all becomes very complicated for us when we're doing it, because if you have an area where we have some areas of the city where all we get is complaints about parking and people parking in the swales and the like, then we do this and we're just creating a bigger problem for ourselves.
Well,
but
There are some neighborhoods
there's
that like
no-
swale
there-
parking,
I
others that
know.
do not.
There's no on-street parking in the set, so.
right,
and
Right,
then,
and that's
then
the
they're
problem, so
compacting the
people will have to
swales.
figure it
And
out.
narrow.
This just kind of begs the issue.
There are a lot of alleys there, and that
There
is-
are a lot of
this
alleys.
worked so much better, this analysis, when there were alleys.
Okay.
This sort of begs the issue of why we need to wait to see what passes.
agree.
There's too many contingencies based on
Yeah.
what passes and what doesn't, and what makes the most sense. Like, to me, ADUs only make sense with one version of this.
Right.
Our solution to this potential parking thing may not be an issue that we can deal with. It might be something that we can. I just think we need to know what gets passed. I don't want to hold this up, but that's why I asked if the timeline was already kind of on the same track. I mean, session's only another month.
Right.
I agree.
We were drafting now, so we were a little surprised when this is the direction it went, because we thought we would be bringing something to you, in a few months, sort of figured out. But we'll draft it the way that you prefer it, and then if we have to erase some things, we'll
Yeah.
erase
Right.
them.
Thank you.
Sounds good.
Okay.
So we all in agreement with what we're talking
Yeah.
about?
Yep.
Yeah.
A little short-term rentals if it's homesteaded.
Two
We think it's a
stories.
good idea. Homesteaded property, and we don't mind if it's a two-story building, but we want to have a garage as being the first. Is that what we're talking about?
And then
Yeah.
the only other thing that I think is worth weighing in on as well that isn't on the list is that the definition of accessory dwelling unit by state statute says that it is an affordable unit, that it is income controlled. So
I like that as
are
well.
we trying, and I know that seems like maybe it's impeding on wealth building, but it's also the rent that comes in at 80 to 120 AMI is actually quite high. So
Right.
Yeah, I mean.
I think we would draft it towards, this is trying to solve the affordability.
The affordability
issue
is going to
too.
be more applicable to a longer-term lease than your
Yeah.
than your overnight stays.
To me, that ties back to the homestead thing.
Exactly.
If the folks can homestead it, I'd like to maximize their wealth building opportunities. If they can't homestead it, I don't want to encourage developers or like investors to come in and buy the home. So it's that really everything kind of hinges on that. A lot of this stuff does,
Thank
in my
you.
opinion.
I'll just add to actually. So one of the comments that we got in some of the public meetings was assistance in constructing these. So I think it'll come eventually, but that's something that was a comment from several community members is how they're going to afford to actually build this once it's there. If it is the wealth building opportunity that we were looking to do, if there will be any subsidy or funding
Can
available.
we talk about that in
We
the
can talk
future?
about, yeah, I just wanted to
We'll
put
get
that
to
on the
that.
record
Right.
because
I think
it was some of the
that's-
comments from the meetings. We have a lot more things to work out
That's
for
going to
first.
get complicated too, because I assume people are going to want to put prefab homes there and stuff like that may not meet hurricane code. I just feel like there's going to be a whole rabbit hole there.
Yeah.
Yes, I just wanted to make that comment,
Thank you.
put that on the record since it came up.
Right. So we're not really voting, there's no ordinance to vote on, so
Just
we're just giving direction.
Yep.
Yes, perfect.
Thank you.
Great work. Okay, Christine, there you go. 9B of intent to lease 2 tenant bays.
Yes. Good afternoon, Commissioners. So the item before you is related to the property that the CRA purchased in March 2024. 1 second, let me get to the slide. So it is located at 102 Northwest 5th Avenue, just across from the Edmonds Bain building. It is in the West Settlers Historic District, and it is a 5-tenant bay building, and currently 2 of those tenant bays is empty. The 2 tenant bays were previously used as a food establishment, one food establishment that utilized a commercial kitchen setup. So it is our intent to initiate the process to lease both tenant bays to one tenant pursuant to Florida Statutes 163-380. We are proposing that the lease terms follow ones that have been previously approved by the board. So previously approved for similar properties on Northwest 5th Avenue would be a $21 per square foot lease rate, which for this building, it's about 2,764 square feet, which comes out to $4,837 a month. The lease terms would also be similar to the terms previously approved by the board, 4 years with 2 options to renew for 2 years each time. And then there would also be a 6% annual escalator for the rent. So our intent is to put out the notice for one qualified individual entity to operate a food establishment that uses a commercial kitchen setup with daytime, nighttime, and weekend operating hours as permitted within the CBD zoning district. And we would not allow nonprofit organizations, religious institutions, adult entertainment establishments, adult gaming centers, alcohol, tobacco retailers, firearms, fireworks retailers, and other businesses not allowed by the Delray Beach land development regulations. The tenant bays would be leased as is, and they do require significant build out, but as they are in a CRA owned building, they do have access to our funding assistance programs.
Great.
The tenant selection process would mirror those previously approved by the board, where there would be an application process and then an evaluation committee, and then the committee would recommend the lease to the executive director, who would then sign off on the lease with the selected tenant. Alternatively, so this process was presented to you because the CRA redevelopment plan does support building up commercial businesses, especially on the historic Northwest Southwest 5th Avenue. Additionally, the West Atlantic Needs Assessment study that was done in 2012 identified specialty restaurants and family-run or family restaurants that were wanted by the residents. And the set transformation plan also emphasizes encouraging restaurants along Northwest Southwest 5th Avenue. However, as we heard from one of our public comments, there is a desire for a shared commercial kitchen setup as well. And the set transformation plan also identifies the need for low-cost shared kitchen space in the community that can be rented out hourly or on a monthly basis. So at this time, CRA staff is requesting the board to provide direction as to how this notice should be put out. Should it be put out as a tenant to utilize a commercial kitchen setup for either a restaurant or other type of business in that similar vein, or a commercial kitchen space? So now over to shared commercial kitchen space. Over to the board.
Thank you. To the board, Commissioner Casal, any thoughts?
Can you describe what this shared commercial kitchen space would involve? Would that require oversight by us in terms of, if you're sharing space, who's in charge of that?
Well, we could look for an operator for it. It's not something that we really explored too in depth. I know I've had many conversations with Monterey about this type of a program there, and I think there has been discussions about it potentially in other locations as well.
Is it a teaching, or people come in and utilize it for like a pop-up?
It's
kitchen?
more.
I'm not. Forgive me.
It's more of like if you have a catering business, you need a commercial kitchen.
Oh, so
to cook
you
your
utilize
food
the kitchen. And that's what I mean, like a pop-up.
Wouldn't be
You take it
on-site
out.
food you're talking about. They would be doing it for off-site.
Exactly. You'll be shared to do for offsite. Exactly. And we're exploring options with some kind of food in this place, because there was like a small, kind of like a sub type thing. I believe there's a grease trap there. Not a lot on Fifth Avenue. So we thought this was a really good opportunity to do something. And we wanted to get the conversation started sooner than later, because we are in the process of doing some exterior renovation to this building. As you know, we just bought this not too long ago. And we are trying to make it look, fix it up a little bit and look nicer, maybe build on and do more to it. But we do have this empty space that has this opportunity that could go really either way.
And are we going to be building the kitchen?
Well, ideally, we would want somebody else to do it, where we wouldn't be the ones running this. So we would have to actually find
long-term lease.
Exactly, be a long-term lease with somebody who would operate this, or some kind of a restaurant, or like a deli. What was there before? It was like kind of a deli counter with some cooking going on, and a small market. So because it is 2 bays, so it's really open.
It's interesting.
We could do some more exploration on it, but we just wanted to hear the board's feedback as we're starting the actual renovation of the whole building.
I think it sounds like a nice opportunity.
Anybody
I'm
just
sorry,
jump in?
Commissioner Burns. Yeah, go ahead, jump in there,
So
Commissioner
first,
Burns.
what was the rate you said?
So for similar businesses on Northwest 5th Avenue, it was $21 a square foot. So this, for the bays here that would operate as one space, it's 2,764 square feet, and that breaks down to $4,837 a month.
But that's open. I mean,
that's open. It's just presented as up for discussion for you.
Okay, all right, okay. And I am in support of utilizing these options and giving the community some options to work with. So the shared commercial kitchen space sounds good to me.
Okay. Commissioner Marker?
I went through this with Renee. I'm totally in favor of this. I don't see any downside to this.
I agree.
I agree too, so, but we don't need a motion, we're just giving direction again, or are we?
Do we like the shared kitchen, or do you want to explore some? Do you want us to pose that and get some feedback first? Because we had either a shared kitchen option or a restaurant, which would be I don't think there's enough room to do both. It's not large enough for that. So we could do some polling and try to get some feedback more broadly and find out what option
Could we
to pursue.
do that? That would probably be a good idea.
Sure. Yeah. We can get a survey out and start asking.
I mean, shared kitchen has some attraction because it allows multiple people to use it.
Mhm.
You know, as opposed to getting their own space who want to have small catering businesses or,
Right.
whatever they want to do. So there's a lot of attraction because many users could use it,
Yeah,
so.
I like the shared kitchen
I'm-
option. However, I mean, maybe you want to do some inquiries to see if there is interest in the community to even get somebody to do that. But however, I like the shared kitchen option.
Yeah, I think that.
So we'll do a quick reach out.
I'd kind of like to know like what the market supports there. Like, could a restaurant survive in that location? Is the question. To me, the shared kitchen offers more opportunities to sort of like get your margins there. Frankly, restaurants are tricky, and this might be a tricky location. I'd hate to limit them to something where they're kind of set up for failure. So we just had that issue with trying to move in a restaurant into a property that took forever.
Yeah.
And then now.
I don't want to do that again.
Close to here.
Right.
Right. So for me, I think the kitchen probably makes more sense. I'd love to hear feedback, but like I'm kind of leaning towards that. It just seems like maybe more sustainable option.
We can just do it then. We can put it out and.
Let's just do it.
Okay.
I'm more leaning towards that
I
too.
mean, I think, what I don't want to do is commit to a restaurant and find out
Right.
it's not going to work,
Yeah.
or commit to a shared kitchen and learn that we don't have the requisite number of people that are actually going to use the facility, because it's got to ultimately generate revenues. And
Exactly. And we need an
people
operator.
can get their lead, and we need an operator. And
Right. So we'll put the notice out for the shared kitchen and see what we
comes
get back. Yeah, exactly. If we have any options, and we'll know pretty quickly, I'm sure, if we're going to be going that route or a different route. But we'll start with putting out for the shared kitchen and see.
Thanks.
Great.
All
Well, you
right.
have direction.
Thank you
Perfect.
very much.
We don't have a request to close bank accounts anymore. So, community redevelopment agent advisory committee term review.
Yes. Okay. So this is on the agenda because there it is. Per the guidelines, we include in there. If you remember, we had a discussion last year about this group and seeing how long we would want to pursue this for. So in the guidelines, it says that we'll bring this to the board 3 months before the end to discuss the term of this advisory group. But my suggestion would be to push this to next month, because we had a meeting with the group last week, and they still need to provide some written documents and different things to you all about what they've been working on. So I would like to at least give them the opportunity to present more information to you all. We've given minutes, and I know we've had updates, but it probably would be nice to see some more of the written documents before.
Commissioner Long?
Suggestion.
Yes.
Fine by me.
Mr. Marker? Yes. Yeah. They've hardly had their time to get their feet wet. Let's.
Yeah,
Yeah.
give another time. We
let's
meet
see
again
what
in
their
June.
next report's going to look like.
Perfect.
Resolution 2025-06, urging that the legislature vote against HB 991 and SB 1242. I'm expecting we all know this, right? We all know what they're trying to do to us up there. I shouldn't say that, just all CRAs, but,
Yes.
so I need a motion to,
I
unless you
thought
want
you had
discussion.
questions. Did you
sorry?
have questions?
Sure, you.
No, I don't. I was going to pull this for consent, and you said you had questions.
Oh, no, you were going to put, you didn't say, did you say 9E?
Yeah.
Oh, no, I was talking about the one.
I thought it was 9A.
Was doing.
Oh,
I thought it was 9.
Oh, no. Okay.
9A.
Motion to approve.
second.
Commissioner Long,
Yes.
Chair Carney,
Yes.
Vice Chair Burns,
Yes.
Deputy Vice Chair Markert,
Yes.
and Commissioner Casal.
Yes.
Yeah, no, the question I had to do with accessory
Sorry.
uses for the, anyway,
EA.
EA, they sound the same.
Angela Hill, you are here.
No,
Not here.
that's not Angel Hill.
No, I'm saying, are you, I'm looking, no. So, is this just item being,
We could just I can give the update. So we met last week, and yeah, the next meeting is in June. So that's really it. We'll have the minutes. They're not ready because we just had the meeting Thursday evening. So we'll send the minutes to the board to review, and then shortly after, you should have the reports.
Perfect.
Thank you.
All right. Thank you.
Other business, comments by Executive Director.
Yes, I have a few things. So before you have a couple documents here. Just wanted to highlight these. These are some of the things that we've been preparing to send to Tallahassee. The first page, just the smaller one, we sent when I made a trip up there during the first week of session and met with the Palm Beach County representatives and also the representatives who filed the bill regarding CRAs. And then the second one is more of a direct document. We're trying to get a lot of CRAs to provide the actual fiscal impact of CRAs to give our legislators a one-pager or two that shows how beneficial it is to have the CRA. So I just wanted you to have this as well. We'll be sending this document along with the resolution opposing the bill to the legislatures and encouraging them to work with us on proposed legislation that would be a favorable amendment to CRAs instead of what is being proposed at this time. Also before you is our annual report that we just finished, so we can actually include that link as well. It was sent to the taxing authorities this week, and it is here for you to look at. We did a really great job this year, and I'm sure we'll continue to do a lot in the future. A few other things that I wanted to bring up. At the last meeting, there was a statement about parking garages at the end of the meeting that I wanted to bring up and find out if you'd like me to discuss that with the city at all, or potentially for future budgeting considerations, but it was something that I wanted to ask the board about.
Could you remind me of what the comment at the end of the meeting was?
There was a comment about building a parking garage, I believe, on Federal Highway.
Yeah, I mean, I'll get into that in my comments, so I can explain what I was trying to do.
So next then is I had a conversation with the city manager, finance director, and finance consultant about bonding for the Northwest Neighborhood Infrastructure Project. So we've been talking about this for several years, but I think we're now at the point where we will need to actually start working on going out for some kind of financing for the project. As you know, the project is about $8 million for the construction. It's been in design. There was an RFQ that was issued by the city for this project. So it's definitely moving forward, and it'll take several months or so to get us underway with financing. So we had a conversation on Friday, and I told them that I would update the board at this time. And I also asked them to research other projects. We also have a set of townhouses that we're looking at building. That's the one with the accessory dwelling units, actually, on Northwest 7th, that we'll need some financing or budget for that as well. So I told them to see what other options are out there that we could look at for bonding capability and what our capacity will be. So he should be getting back to us in about a week or so with some models, but he said that we can get the ball rolling because the city also has other things on their plate that they're working on. So just timing wise for him, he wants to just get things going so that everything's moving along at the same time. And lastly, I have a couple things on here. I'll go to that next. So one other update is the set transformation plan, or the West Atlantic master plan. So we have it in the process of updating that based on the board's direction. We've had several meetings with members of the community, and we're planning to start having public outreach meetings about this in the near future to basically show the work that's been done towards the plan since the adoption in 2020, and then get feedback on where it's going in the future. So just wanted to bring an update about that. Couple things on the slides. You will notice that West Atlantic Avenue looks a little bit different. There's no longer a green building, a strip building there. So we are in the process, we're in the process of demolishing it. This was a picture from a couple weeks ago, but it is demolished at this point. They're working on another demo project just across the street from where this is, but just wanted to mention that we're getting ready for redevelopment on West Atlantic, specifically the south side. So we're excited that this is all cleared off. It's going to be completely sodded and ready for developers to come in the future and work with us in the community, obviously, to come up with a project that is favorable to everyone. Next slide. I don't have and then also Rock the Block is coming back. I believe we should have this new date is May 31st. There's actually a small group meeting about this evening, but it is coming back. We'll be transforming 10 houses in one day, painting, doing minor landscaping, and improving the mailboxes. This program has been going on with the city since 1989, and we're really happy that it's continuing on forward. And that's all I have.
Thank you very much.
Thank you.
Comments by Commissioner Long.
Yeah, thank you. So I wanted to talk about potential other projects to add to our sort of our list right now in terms of bonding capacity. You know, we Renee, a couple weeks ago, you sent us a list of potential acquisitions, and to me, the big one on there was that like 2-acre property on Northeast 4th Avenue in like the Artist Alley area. You know, we've been talking up here last few meetings about how do we make a major dent in our affordable housing issue in Delray Beach, or our workforce housing issue. And now we have the specter of this legislation that could limit or cripple or completely stop our ability to move forward with acquisitions like this. I feel like now is the time to maybe make a move where we could potentially put forth an effort to build a substantial amount of affordable housing. And if we're going out for a bond anyway right now, which I think is a good idea based on what we know about this legislation, to be floating a bond right now is actually a good thing. I would love to include an acquisition like that in here. I think it's an opportunity. I mean, I know right now we have very little land left in Delray to build anything on. This is 2 acres. We could put a couple hundred workforce housing units on this. Like that like wildly increases our workforce housing stock in the city, probably by more than 50%. That's the type of thing. I mean, listen, if our ability to make these types of acquisitions and to do this type of thing, you know, gets completely dissolved, I'd like to go out swinging. And to me, this is a big swing. And I know that the budget was around 20 million or something like that, which is, I know is a lot. But to me, if we're going for 80 million plus in a bond or whatever it is, I think it would be really appropriate to emphasize something like this.
What property are you talking about?
It's on Artist Alley, kind of behind Bednar's.
Can we even put that many units in there comfortably?
Well,
You
Anthea
get
will have to tell me that.
you get density bonuses
Yeah.
there.
Here's what I would say if you want my opinion. We have a lot of commitments, financial right now, big commitments. Pompey Park, the Northwest Redevelopment Infrastructure Plan. We need to do all of Atlantic Avenue, and now we're talking about getting into another project. I think we owe the residents to dedicate our time, energy to Atlantic Avenue in the west. And that's been promised for years and years and years and years, and we haven't done it. And now we're talking about dedicating ourselves potentially to another area, and that is a lot of money for property, and I realize it's hard to come by, but that's a lot of money.
But this is the biggest issue in our city right now. I mean, we passed a county referendum for this, and there's not been a single shovel in the ground. The state just passed a bill, the Live Local Act, to try and address this issue, which does not really work in our community. I think if we're really doing what we say we care about here as a CRA, and we have very few opportunities to really effectuate the mission of our CRA, this is an opportunity to solve one of the biggest problems in our city, which is that no one who works here can afford to live here.
Right,
That's
but
the
then-
biggest cause of traffic. It's the biggest issue with retention. It's the biggest issue in our schools. It's the biggest issue with our service industry downtown. So to me, this is a top line issue. And I don't know why we're assuming that we can't do both. We can't walk and chew gum. Why do we have to choose this and necessarily sacrifice doing the other projects that are, many of which are already budgeted and planned? So to me, they're mutually
Well, they're not
exclusive.
really budgeted, though. We have the money for Pompeii, but we don't actually have the other money.
Well,
But
we're
why-
going out for a bond for the other project.
May I
right?
ask you a question? Why wouldn't we then go and have ourselves develop the 600, 700, 800 block ourselves if we're going to go out for a bond for that kind of money? Why wouldn't we look to do something right there? That last BH3 proposal consisted of all affordable housing, workforce affordable housing. Why don't we do it with property we already own and not expend 20 million on property?
I don't think the density is the same there, and we want to put a grocery store there.
We can still do. They were doing 3 blocks was going to consist of grocer. It's all storefront, and the residential was in the back. But I mean, if we're going to do something, I say let's go do it on West Atlantic.
One of our principal charges, though, is to try to develop workforce housing.
Right.
We all talk about one of the issues about the parking lot where they want to charge you there. We said, well, what are we worried about? You know, employees and things like that. We want to create housing where people can actually walk to work.
Right.
Atlantic Avenue is a perfect place
and
for that.
my fear is that, we can always change our minds down the road, I guess, but with the way this statute seems to be shaping up, if we don't get things committed under our belt that we're going to move forward with, whether we finance them with bank financing, whether we finance them with bonds, or whether there's a number of ways this can be financed, we won't be able to do anything. And the properties that we already have on West Atlantic are going to be fine because we don't have to do anything with those.
Right.
So
Right.
we either have to nail down our ability to do other projects now. And I mean, I think this bill is terrible what they're doing. I mean, they're accelerating stuff that I think we could have waited a year or two to try to do. But with the way this bill is shaping up, I mean, it passed through committee. They're fast tracking this bill with really no understanding of how it's going to affect CRAs around the bona fide CRAs such as us. And by getting something in the pipeline as an approved project, they can't take it away from you.
Absolutely.
Agreed.
And that is my whole issue. And look, I've also mentioned parking garage. I've also mentioned there's several out there that, whether ultimately how it gets done with a bond or bank loan or something, and yes, it's expensive, but at $20 million or $21 million, whatever the number is, it's $100,000 a unit for your price. And I got to tell you,
and it's not going to get cheaper
people are
over
buying
time.
lots. They're not gonna
Right,
get
wasn't that property listed recently for I think I know the guy who's trying to sell that. He was trying to sell it for $13 million 6 months ago.
Oh, he's
No? Are you sure? Okay. Haven't been talking to a lot of people about buying that property? That's interesting. Huh.
So I agree with the mayor. We may have very limited time now, and I think it's important we plant our flag there. That doesn't mean we don't also do affordable housing in the 600, 700, 800 blocks, right? Like, of course, that's probably going to be what we do there as well. But I don't think we're going to have the issue of having too much affordable housing in Delray Beach.
We don't have people chomping at the bit to do affordable housing. I am really
Right.
not worried about the 600, 700, 800 blocks of Atlanta. I mean, I think those are.
I think we have a
done.
lot of projects to complete. We don't know what our future is. I feel like we should be completing the projects that we've been promising people before we dive into another
I don't
project.
think they're mutually. The thing is, I'm not seeing them as mutually exclusive.
All right, let's just take a vote then.
So,
I would then move, if we're going to take a vote, that we.
it's not really
Excuse
voting
me,
item. It's
before you go down that road, you can't take a vote. You don't have an action item on your
Right.
agenda.
I was
A
gonna say it's not an
consensus.
action item.
You can have consensus,
Then-
maybe put it on the next agenda.
Then I'd like to have a consensus to have a discussion about this on the next agenda. if we
Oh, that's
can.
fine. We should have said that at the beginning.
This is some of the other projects. I mean, we've talked about several things.
Well,
and-
this
and
was just part of his
we
comments.
need
He
to.
never
Yeah, it was
finished
a
the
comment.
We may have to.
No, he was
I
just
hate to use the
making
word
comments.
overreach, but we may have to overreach now
Clear.
to be able to capture some of these projects that they have to be done.
And I agree with that.
And so that we have options
We
down
need-
the road. We can always
Absolutely.
things can always change down the
Right.
road. You can always say, but let's get them in the, as my old friends do, the Pippolini.
Well, the irony is what
That's
this
pipeline, but, just
Pipolini.
the Pippolini.
So
This is an Italian guy. He said, I want it in the Pippolini, and I'd say,
sounds like something like Mario would say.
So we are in agreement to
was
put
from
it on the
Boston,
next
close enough.
agenda for discussion, and then you'll look into the value of the property and the like, Renee, so we can be
Yes.
presented with information.
Yes, I have. Yeah, we have the appraisal. So, and the
Okay.
owners did their own independent appraisal.
Can you send
So-
us all that
yeah,
information?
I'll definitely send it.
Perfect,
for sure.
thank you.
So you're going to reach out to the owner and try and see where everyone's at, so we kind of have direction next time we talk about it, or
Sure. I mean, I just received the appraisal. I was informed,
Okay.
I guess, that would be the amount that they would be seeking. I can ask if that's changed, but it's just over $20 million. Our appraisals came in at about 19.
okay. Sounds great. Thank you.
Thank you. I was politely waiting for my turn.
Oh, I'm
but-
sorry.
No,
Your
no,
turn.
Rob wasn't finished. It was in his comments, so
That's all I got, but thank
the
you.
consensus
Commissioner.
has been made. So I'll save my comments for the next meeting on this.
Do you want me to read them to you?
item.
Read them to you?
No, it's okay.
Would
You want
have
to see
other
what it
comment-
says? Like Rob, I wanted to talk about all the opportunities. No,
Would you have any other comments?
not Rob. Did you finish your comments?
I am. I'm done. Thank you,
Okay.
though. I appreciate it.
Okay, Mr. Marker, do you have any comments?
I have just a question, Renee, and I think I know the answer to this, but I think everybody up here is uncomfortable with some of the direction in Tallahassee right now. Are we doing everything we can do to help influence that in a better direction? Or is there more that we can do? Is there more any of us can do? I mean,
Well, yeah, I would say yes. So I guess the benefit, I'm president of the FRA this year.
Yeah.
Lucky.
Good year for it.
I know. I'm like, why did this happen this year? But I mean, so I've been like, it's like a second job now, honestly. Sorry, guys, but been in constant communication with the FRA's lobbyists. I've spoken with our lobbyist Ballard at the city, preparing these reports. I know a lot of CRAs have been going up there and expressing their concerns with the bill. So I think it's just reaching out to our legislators to share the information. I can send this document to you all as well. So if you maybe want to forward the benefits, but I think the Palm Beach County delegation is very supportive of CRAs. I don't really think it's ours that really need that message. So what we've been trying to say statewide is, like, if you have other people that you're in contact with in other areas I think need to hear that message of why this bill is not helpful at all to CRAs or the state of Florida, more so than the Palm Beach County delegation, because like I said, they're all supportive. We met with them when we were in Tallahassee, and they're all just super supportive of our CRA. So no, it's like we're right in the middle of it. So I think we're doing as much as we can. It's really frustrating to wait.
We're the poster child, and unfortunately there's a lot of CRAs out there that are less poster childish.
People do different things. So, and part of the one of the things that was suggested by the FRA even to amend the bill is if there are things that the legislator is not comfortable with, to include that in the bill. So if you say no parades, say no nonprofits, say no to these no sponsorships. So that was something that was proposed. Instead of saying no new projects, just say don't do the things you don't like. So we're hoping that eventually that message will, get repeated enough that they're like, well, that makes more sense because CRAs are doing great work over there. Let's exclude these sponsorships, these parades, festivals, concerts that I guess there may be still people still doing that, or it's misconceived of what they are doing. That's not really helping the rest of the 200 CRAs in the state. So I think we are, but yes, I'm in it every single day, actually.
Their definition of eliminating slum and blight is a little different than ours.
It's different, yes. I think that some CRAs, because before 2019, and we did it here, I mean, the perception was you have these events and you help with these things in order to bring people to communities that are slum and blighted that people don't really want to go to as like an economic driver. But in 2019, when the legislature changed, that like looser language was just struck. Was taken away. But some CRAs are still kind of doing these things or participating. Like we table at different events. We don't host the whole thing, but we go there and share information about CRAs, which is fine. But I think it's the level and where a legislator might see that and say, you're hosting a parade, and you're not. You may just be having a tabling event, and that's where the education part comes in, to see what we're doing actually is not maybe what they think that we're doing, is what I hope. So,
and when we have our other cat hats on, we're going to learn that the CRA is being forced this year to stop their support of some of these wonderful not-for-profits that we have been supporting traditionally over the years and which rely on our support, and they're going to put it in our laps as commissioners and then decide, as city commissioners decide, what
we already
to do.
did that though.
We were going to do that.
Actually, on our own.
Oh, I know.
We did it.
We
were forward thinking.
Exactly. We've been in the process. Exactly.
I understand.
But we need to finalize it, I think, this budget year.
Until it's final, it's not final. And there's a lot of expectation that things are going to change, and I don't see it changing.
No, it's still going that direction. So, but thank you.
I'm done.
Yeah, so, in addition to...
No,
I said I was going to let them finish. I like things to be finished before I break in. Anyway, I cannot talk over people. I'm just sorry. I can't do it. And I like people to finish their comments before I start breaking in. I think better that way. So I just wanted to say that I agree with Rob and you. I just think that because of this time frame and this legislative disaster that's hopefully will not happen, that we need to take every opportunity that we can. Like, too much to me, as I understand it, whatever we have in the plan, in the budget, that by September 30th, whether they're loans or whatever, we can still play that out. So, the property that the CRA owns on Southwest 9th behind the hotel, I want to see something like in the books for that, so that we can get some affordable. We have space. I'm not worried about the space we already own. Right. I'm worried about acquiring more. And 2 acres of land to build affordable housing on. If we can do that, we should not pass that up. We've been trying to get the school board property for ages. They don't want to sell. Here's an opportunity, so let's take it. All right, that's it. I'm done.
Thank you. Commissioner Casal?
No comments. I feel like I have to thank you for something, Renee, but I don't know what it is. So, just
Okay.
thank you.
Thank you.
You're always doing a great job, and
Thank
all your staff as well.
Thank you.
I don't know that any of you knew Robert Thompson. Did you know Robert Thompson died from the Housing Authority?
No, I didn't know that.
I learned about it this morning.
Oh my gosh.
That's sad. Wow.
Wow.
A nice guy, you know,
Wow, to reach
died
out to the
suddenly,
housing.
you know.
Oh my goodness.
So,
To reach out to
I
him.
just-
Rest in peace.
I want to express
Yeah.
my condolences
Please,
to,
yes.
you know, to
I'll
the
reach out.
family. I mean, it was just
Surely.
such a shock.